Hello everyone, welcome back to MalStorm Gaming. My name is Malin Gardner, and today I'm going to be starting my playthrough of the BattleQuest game mode for BattleCon. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Alright, so this is the BattleQuest game mode for BattleCon all set up, and we're going to go through the first scenario in the book here, which is Baroness Ancella's Crypt. Now this is a solo adventure, which means that it is just for one person controlling one character. So there are other scenarios in the book that are for one person controlling two characters, and they kind of tag team, so you always have one character on the field, but you can kind of switch between them. Then you have one that's like that, but you have three characters tag team, and then you have one that's for two characters, one that's for three characters, and then one that's for four characters. So you have a bunch of different ways of playing, whether you want to have one character that you go through the entire dungeon with, two characters or three characters that you can swap between, or having multiple characters on the field at a time. So that's pretty cool. So there's some flavor text here, and so I am going to go ahead and read that off to you guys so that you kind of know what the theme is for this dungeon. Baroness Ancella lived centuries ago in the heart of Relicoeur. Ambitious and avaricious, she conquered much of Relicoeur with mercenary armies, pillaging the wealth of a nation. It's whispered that she sought secrets of the afterworld in a vain attempt at immortality, but only earned lasting infamy. Upon answering Tanis's request for adventurers, she asks you to retrieve Ancella's diary. As we search for my latest play, the ghostly playwright says excitedly, you can keep any other treasure you find, I just need some help with understanding her motivation. This is a solo dungeon. Only one fighter will be in your party. Equip up to 100 gold of supplies from the armory. Try to survive with even less gold for additional challenge. Alright, so that's kind of the theme that we're just going to go into this crypt, and we're looking for this ghost's diary. And we're going to be looking for this lady's diary that she kept, and we have 100 gold to spend. So in the previous page we have the armory here, which has a bunch of different things you can buy. You have consumables, henchmen, which are only playable if you have the BattleCon Strikers expansion, and then you have custom armor, custom weapons, trinkets, and you have a bunch of different things you're able to buy. Everything has a cost that you can see right up there. So this Bottled Rage has a cost of 5 gold, and as the scenario says, we have 100 gold to spend. So I've actually already gone and spent all of that gold, and then I wrote down what I bought. So hopefully you guys can read my handwriting. So I bought some iron armor. Which will increase our health from 20, which is starting, to 35. So we have our 35 health tokens over here, which, as you might guess, if we run out of health, then we are defeated. And then we have the auto deflector trinket, which is going to be represented with this token right here, which came from the, which was a generic token that was included inside the War of Indies box. And we can ante this, to give us 2 armor, and I'll explain what that means later, but we have that. And then we have the Healing Stone, which is another trinket that is represented by this token here, again from War of Indies. And then this, when we ante this, we can regain 1 life. And those 2 tokens, the Auto Deflector and the Healing Stone, are going to be reusable. Now we also have the Life Potion, which we can ante this to regain 4 life, but this is not reusable. So this is a little bit more of a powerful life gain, but then it is gone. And then I also wrote down spaces for the room, and then the hit point value of our character, so that we can keep track of that. So if you were to be defeated by running out of all your hit points, you can just restart the room that you were in, but you have to make sure you know how much health you had at the beginning of that room, so that you can reset your health to that number. So if we were in the 5th room, for example, and we had 5 life left, and we died, we could restart that 5th room with 5 health. But hopefully that doesn't happen. So I'm just going to leave that over here. So now I'm going to introduce the character I've selected. So I posted on a bunch of different social media platforms, such as the BattleCon Discord, BattleCon Facebook group, BattleCon page on Board Game Geek, and I also posted it in my own Instagram account, and I just asked people, hey, what character would you like me to use? And some people said to use Clinhide 8. So that is the character I'm using. I did do a test run playing with this character solo a little bit, and he seems pretty cool, so I hope you all like him. So each character has a special ability that is unique to them and changes up the game in a significant way. So all the abilities are printed on the back of their character card, so let's go ahead and read his ability first. So his ability is called Power Suit, and a brief description here. Clinhide has 3 distinct stim cards, which provide immediate and continuous bonuses at the cost of life. Then we have a setup. All stims are inactive. So we have our 3 stim cards here, and we are going to be able to use these, we can activate these to give us bonuses to our stats, but as that little descriptor said, we're going to lose life the longer we keep these out. But these all start inactive like this, so none of them are actually doing anything. Alright. As a limited ante, we can activate a stim, perform the rush trigger on that stim. Alright, and then the rush trigger is printed here. This is a stat boost you're always going to have as long as this is active, but then the rush is going to be an additional bonus, but that's only going to be active on the turn that we activate it. But then we will have this lingering effect, which is not as powerful, but it still is going to be very useful. And then we have the end trigger, which is perform the sustain trigger on each active stim. So the sustain on all of them is you suffer chip 1, which means that you lose 1 life. Chip is just kind of how the game says to lose life, except there's some special rules, such as you can't be reduced to 0 health with a chip effect, but in general, chip is just a shorthand way of saying you lose 1 life. So if we keep these out, it's going to be powerful, but we're going to lose life at the end of each turn per card we've activated. So that's going to be an interesting thing we're going to have to use. And now each character has something completely different like this. So you have all sorts of different characters with all sorts of different special abilities, and all the other cards we have that we're going to be using are going to be able to utilize our special ability in different ways and give us different bonuses based off of things there. And that's how all of the characters work in BattleCon. So that's very cool. But each character is very different. Alright, so there's still a decent amount of stuff I have not explained what it is. I'm just going to go through that real quick. First off, we have the board here, which has 9 spaces. A normal BattleCon game has 7 spaces, which is going to be on the other side of this board here. But on this side, this one has 9 spaces, which is used in multiplayer games or in the solo game mode where you're going to be fighting multiple enemies. So this is our character right here, and he's represented by this cardboard standee. And then you have these 4 enemies, and these each are generic enemies. So the BattleCon Devastation game comes with 4 of these. 1 of each of these colors, so you have the red, blue, purple, and then green. And these will each stand in for any enemy. So they look like zombies. So they look like what the game's zombies look like, but you can also use them when you're fighting against oozes and dark wisps and werewolves and anything else that the game will throw at you. You're going to use these. So you're going to need to use your imagination just a little bit when picturing how they move on the board. But each character does have their own, which is pretty cool. So each of these enemies, they're pretty weak, they're just zombies. They each have 3 health tokens. We, as we've discussed already, have 35 health. So that is kind of nice, although we are going to need to go through several rooms. So that's going to be tricky to preserve our life, because you don't heal at all in between rooms. Next up, we have a bunch of these tokens over here. These are all tokens that we're going to be able to ante and do various things with, such as powering up or speeding up or various different things there. And of course, I've already discussed our trinkets here. So these are going to be things that we're going to be able to ante. The rest of the components here are our cards. And there are 2 different types of cards that each have 2 different backs. So you have the blue bases and then the red styles. So each turn, we're going to take 2 of them, 1 style and 1 base. We're going to put them together, and then that is going to be the attack pair that we are going to do for that round. So let's actually go ahead and select our attack pairs right now. So everyone's going to select an attack pair simultaneously. If you're playing a game with actual people involved, you're all going to be doing the same thing, which is just pick one base and then one style, and then put those face down. And you're all going to do that simultaneously. Now, because we're playing the BattleQuest mode, these enemies do not actually have their own cards. Instead, we have these tokens numbered 1 through 6. And we're going to shuffle these up. And then we're going to deal 1 to each enemy. And then that number will correspond to what the enemy is able to do. In the book, we have the stats for the enemies. So if, after we reveal the tokens, it's a 1 through 3, it's going to be Shamble, which has these stats here. If it's a 4 through 5, it's going to be a Lunge, which has these stats and abilities. And then if it's a 6, it's going to be a Bite, which is going to have these abilities here. So that's just a very simple way that the game chooses a random ability for each of the enemies, and they're going to get a new one of those every turn. But we, as a player, get to actually pick out what we want to do, and we get to use our one base and then one style. Now, each base is kind of, well, the base of your action, and then the styles just modify the base. So let's take a look at these. You have 4 different stats up here. You have range, which is the range of which your attack will hit. The first number is the minimum. The second number is the maximum. So that is all from our character. The space you're on is going to be 0. So this is 1 and then 2. And that is going to be our minimum range. So if we played a burst, we're not going to be able to hit this guy right here, but we can hit someone here or here. So that's how range works. Then you have power. It is your turn. In priority order, which is the next stat up here, you are going to be able to attack someone within your range, which again is 2 to 3, and you're going to deal them that much damage, which is 3. Now, for these guys, it would kill them, so that's kind of nice. So that is how power works. It's just simple. You deal that much damage to them. There's no defense checks or anything like that. You just do that much damage to them, if they're within range. Next stat down here is priority, and that is the equivalent to initiative in other games. After we reveal all these tokens, we're going to check everyone's priority. So whoever has the highest priority is going to do their ability first, and then you're going to go down to the lowest priority. Now this is a 1 priority, so that is pretty low. So this is probably going to go last. Finally, you have a guard. When you are hit, you're going to check if you are stunned or not. If you are dealt more damage than your guard, then you are stunned, and you're not able to do much on the rest of your turn. Then we're going to have all of our special abilities here, and they'll have a trigger for when it goes off. So this goes off at the start of the beat, which the beat is the equivalent to a round. So at the start of a beat or round, we retreat 1 or 2 spaces. So retreat is just moving away from enemies. So if we were to play this card, we would retreat 1 or 2 spaces, so we can go back 1 space. Now, that would put us on the edge of the board, so we couldn't actually retreat 2 spaces because there is no space that is 2 away from us. So that is how this base works. The styles work differently. They each have a modifier for these stats up here. So the phase style gives us +0 minimum range and +2 maximum range. And then it gives us 1 extra power, and then it takes away 3 priority and then does not affect the guard at all. So that's how those work. You're going to take the base stats from your base, and then you're going to modify them with your style. And then again, you just have a bunch of abilities here. So I'm going to go through and pick 1 style and 1 base, and then that is what I'm going to do for this round. Okay, so I've selected the diffusion style with the strike base. So if you put this together, we're playing the diffusion strike attack bear. So here's the thing. Normally, we would just put these and place them face down, and then once the other player is ready, we reveal them simultaneously. Thing is, when you're playing with just solo, you're going to be able to just leave them face up, so you can always reference them because there's no hidden information from another player. Next up, what we're going to be able to do is we're going to ante. So generally, the person who went first last beat is going to take the first turn for anteing. Thing is, with enemies, there is no anteing when it comes to these enemies because they have nothing to ante. Now we have stuff to ante, so we can just go ahead and do that. First off, we do have our ability here. So since this is a limited ante, we can only do this once. So we can activate one of our stim cards, but we can't do 2 or 3 because it's limited. We can only do 1. So do I want to do any of these? Well, let's just go through each of these. This one gives us +1 power, and then has a rush, which is +1 power. So it gives us +2 power for the first turn that we have it out, and then +1 power for every turn after that. And then, of course, it has a chip 1 sustain effect. This one gives us +2 guard, and then it gives us armor 2 as a rush effect. Now, armor, which also appears in other places, such as our auto deflector token, when you have armor, you reduce the next X damage that you're dealt. So in this case, we have armor 2, which means that the next time we be dealt damage, we reduce it by 2. So if this guy attacks us and we have armor 2, and he does 1 damage to us, we would block that 1 damage, and then we have 1 armor left, and then the next guy could hit us and reduce our armor more, and then if he still has leftover damage after he reduces our armor to 0, he does actual damage to us, reducing our health by that much. And then, of course, this also has a chip 1 effect. Finally, we have this one, which gives us +1 priority, and then +1 priority as a rush, so it gives us +2 priority total for the first turn, and then 1 for every turn after that. And then we have a sustain effect of suffer 1 chip. I think that I would like to take this one right here so that I can get +2 priority. So I'm going to activate this. Okay, so messing everything up here. So this is the one I'm going to activate, so let's put that down. Then we have these other tokens here. This one is going to give us 2 armor. This one, like I already discussed, is going to give us 1 health regen. So we actually have full health, so let's not do that one. Finally, we have these 3 overload tokens. Now, we're able to use these, and these are also limited antes, and so we can do each of these once. And how this works is we have this force, which we're going to be gaining passively throughout the course of the game, and we can spend 2 force to activate one of these. So this one, trash 2 force, which means remove 2 force from the game to get 1 power. This one, 2 force for 2 priority, and then this one is 2 force for 2 guard. So, do we want to do one of these? Let's see. I don't think I do. So I'm not going to ante anything else, and so I'm just going to go straight into the next phase, which is the reveal phase. So we're going to flip over all these tokens here. Alright, we've got a 6, a 5, a 4, and then a 3. Okay, so that is in descending order, which is kind of ironic. So now let's go ahead and check what all these people are doing. The 6 is going to be a bite, so this first guy is biting, and so he has a range of 1, power of 4, priority of 6, and then a stun guard of 4. The next person is a 5. Actually, the next 2 people are 5s and 4s, so those are both lunges, range 1, power 1, priority 3, stun guard 0. And then we have a before activating, which this is going to go off right before they do their attack. So when it's their turn in initiative order, but before they do their attack, they're going to advance 2 spaces, and that means they're going to go towards me. And then the last person, who has 3, he is going to shamble, which has a 1, a range, 1, power, and then 0, priority, and stun guard. And then before activating is going to be advance 1. Okay, so let's see how much priority we have. We have 3 plus 1 from this, so that's 4. Then we get plus 1 priority for our rush effect, and then plus 1 priority from the passive effect there. So we have 6 total. Now, we tied in priority with this guy who's biting, because both of us have 6 priority. When you get to a priority tie, in the BattleQuest mode, the player always wins. When you come to a tie inside a multiplayer mode, you're going to do a clash, which is going to be different. Basically, you're just going to repick some of your cards. But we're playing the BattleQuest mode, so that means we win ties. So I am actually going to have the highest priority, and so I get to go first. So for my range, we have a 1 range for the strike, and then diffusion gives us plus 0, plus 1. What that means is that for strike, the minimum and maximum are both 1. To combine these and calculate our range, we are going to add these separately. So first, the 0 is going to add to a 1 to give us a minimum range of 1. And then the 1 here is going to add to the 1 on the strike to give us a maximum range of 2. So our range is 1 to 2, which means that we could hit someone here or here. Now we can also shoot the other way and hit someone here, but there's no one there, so that's not really going to matter. So let's target this guy right here, and then we have hit him because we are within range. Now, before we do damage, we are going to trigger this hit effect here, which says push 1 or 2. And then it says chip 2 if the opponent is on an edge of the arena. So we're going to be able to push him 1 or 2 spaces. I'm going to push him 1 space and just slide him over there. And then, after we've done our hit effect, we are going to damage him. So a 4 power from strike and then -1 from diffusion. So that's going to be 3 damage. And then we are going to be able to do 3 damage to him, which actually eliminates him. So he's going to be removed from the board before even taking his turn. And then we have a damage effect, which says deactivate a stim, which means that we can't deactivate this before having to lose 1 life from the sustain effect. So I like that card. And then later, we're going to close as far as possible. So at the end of the beat, we're closing as far as possible. So that is going to be at the end of the entire beat after all these people have taken their actions. And what closing means is that we are going to move as far as possible to become adjacent to someone. So if nothing changed and it was the end of the beat right now, we would close to this guy because he's our nearest opponent, and we would just move right next to him, like that. In this case, it would be 2. But if, suppose these guys weren't here, these did not exist, and then we close all the way over here to close to this guy, if this was the only enemy left. So closing can be pretty useful if you are a melee-oriented character. So we're just going to leave these cards here for now. And so now we're going to go on to the next turn. So these 5 and 4, they both have a priority of 3, so they're going to both go next. And we're going to resolve them in order of the highest token, so 5 is going to go before the 4. And what they're going to do is before activating, they're going to advance 2 spaces. So the enemies, they want to move as far as possible, as long as they are in range after the movement. So this guy is going to advance 2 spaces towards me, and he is within range because his range is 1. And then he is going to hit me for, as you can see here, 1 damage. So not super powerful, but that is 1 damage out of 35. Then the number 4 is going to do the same thing. It's going to advance 2 spaces, and then it is not within range, so it's actually not going to be able to attack us, so that is nice there. Finally, we have this guy right here who is going at 3, and he's going to shamble, which means he's going to go 1 space forward, and then he has a range of 1, so he's not going to be able to hit us. Okay, so that is the board state at the end of the first beat. Now, we're going to activate our diffusion ability here, so we can close as far as possible. Now, we are adjacent, so we don't actually move at all. We already are closed. So that is the end of the first beat. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to recycle. When you recycle, you're going to take the cards in this discard pile right here, which is our second discard pile, and we're going to add these to our hand. Then we're going to take the cards in the first discard pile and slide them over the second discard pile. So it means we're going to get these next turn. Then we're going to take the attack pair we just played and put them in the second discard pile. So the cards are now on a 2-turn timer. So that is our cooldown there, and that way you can't just keep on spamming the same ability. Finally, we're going to check our health. We have 34 health now, and so that means we're going to gain 1 force token. If we had 7 or fewer health, we would gain 2 force tokens instead. So generally, you're just going to gain 1 force. So now, we already had 2, so now we have 3. And again, force is going to be able to be used for these abilities right here. So, all in all, that was actually a pretty good first beat. We were only dealt 1 damage, and we managed to defeat 1 of these. So that is pretty nice. Now, I did forget to mention earlier that the scenario book tells you how to set up each of the rooms. So this is the room we're starting in, and this is where we start, as well as all the enemies where they start. And then we have a bonus here that says clear the room in 5 beats or less to gain 3 life. So we're going to want to keep track of the number of rounds that we take, the number of beats. And so I'm just going to take 1 force token and place this right here, just off the side of the board here, so that we can keep track of how many beats have taken place in this room so that we can regain our 3 health, hopefully. So I think this is where I'm going to stop the video. We went through 1 beat as well as the description of the game. Next video, I'm going to be able to go through much more of the game, and hopefully I'll be able to do 2 or 3 rooms a video from here on out. But this is where I'm going to stop from now because I think this video has gone on long enough. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope you all are as excited as I am to continue seeing how Klinghind faces up against all of these monsters, and then the Baroness and Sella's ghost later on. And I hope you all will join me, and I hope you all have a great day. Happy gaming!